Welcome to the Mindset Huddle Podcast, where sports and mental health meet. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Carruthers and Andrew Grants.
All right, here we are back for what we would call episode 2 of the Mindset Huddle, this podcast for athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, community members who want to better understand the mental side of sports, identity, pressure, leadership, and growth. Our goal is not just to build better athletes, but better people, because at the end of the day, sports will end for everyone someday. But mindset, character, and identity last forever. So with that being said, welcome to the huddle, joined by Andrew Grant, the co-host here. Chris Carruthers with System of Care. Andrew?
Good to be here. Glad to be on. And yes, sports ends for everybody someday.
Oh
So
yeah,
this is huge. This is so important what we're talking about.
it is. It is. I don't know about you, but I see the reels or the TikToks where it's like nobody prepared me to go from being an athlete to working a 9 to 5 or something, and they make it dramatic, and they're crying or something, and it really is a true transition going from being in a situation where all you have to worry about is what time's practice, what time are workouts, and then what are we doing after practice? What are we going to eat? So. Um, Today, we want to talk about the pressure to perform, expectations, anxiety, and then dive a little bit deeper into the athlete mind. So, as we mentioned, last episode, um, played high school basketball, ran track, soccer, played a little bit collegiately basketball, and Andrew, you golfed. So, I feel like we're pretty, yeah, we can give some credible insights to what we're talking about here. Not to
Yeah,
mention, our professional expertise here.
yeah.
Um, you were going to say something though?
No, I was gonna say just to be able to see it for both of us to see it from the athlete side, but now, both having been coaches, at levels, especially Indiana high school basketball, which is, up there with Texas football and,
Yeah.
just some of the top sports in the country at the high school level. So you get to see it from the coaches side too, and the athlete side. So it's a good perspective to try to put ourselves in both shoes to see
Yeah,
both sides of it.
definitely. Definitely. Some things we kind of want to address today. When does pressure become too much? Are we putting too much pressure on young athletes? And where does pressure originally come from? And we can dive deeper into that last question. And one thing I'm always a component of, and it kind of my teaching style and my coaching style as well, is kind of defining um, topics or points. So an example of that would be kind of defining pressure, first of all, before we dive in and start throwing this word around, because oftentimes, I know this past year, um, we kept talking about these points: sense of urgency, attention to detail, making the easy play, just showing good body language. And finally asked the kid, I said, "Do you know what good body language looks like?" And it was like, "Well, kind of, sort of." And I was like, "All right, that's a no." So it became an awesome opportunity to be able to come in and just be like, when things are going good, you have a smile on your face, and when things are going bad, you have a smile on your face, or you're not pouting, or sitting up when you're sitting on the bench, look like a winner.
Yeah.
So I pass it over to you. What's your definition of pressure?
Mm. That's a good one. I think pressure comes from our perception. Um, you know, you could have the same scenario, but how you perceive it would either put a lot of pressure on you, or it could be something that's exciting that you want to achieve. And
Right.
um, of course, there's things you have outside pressure, and things like that can affect you. And we'll get into some of that as we go. But at the end of the day, it's all about how you perceive it. So
Mhm.
pressure ultimately I think is internal. It's how we see things in our mind. So as an example, there was one of the schools I was coaching at, football program, had a big game coming up against one of the best teams in the state. They hadn't played them in like 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so the players were nervous. I was talking to the football players throughout the week, and all I heard was like, "Oh, we're just going to get killed. We're going to get destroyed. Like this team is, they're so much better than us. This is going to be so embarrassing." Like they were dreading the game, the pressure of the game. And I just was like, guys, like you all have an opportunity to beat the best team in the state. Like not many people get this opportunity. Like if you beat them, do you understand? Like you can make a name for yourself. You can make a name for this program. Like this could be like the thing that takes this program to the next level. But none of them were thinking that way.
Right.
But the situation was the same. The opponent wasn't, different. The game day wasn't different. It was the exact same situation, but it was how they were perceiving the situation that created all of that pressure. And they were focusing on the problem. They were focusing on all the negativity and all the bad things that could happen.
Yeah.
And when we perceive that, when we focus on that, that just adds so much pressure, no matter where the pressure is coming from. When we focus on those things, that just magnifies the pressure that comes our way.
Oh yeah. And we'll dive into some more specifics here in just a second, but just on that, it's crazy the amount of you kind of touched on it just a bit, but with just anytime there's an opportunity to really just take advantage of a situation. One thing we tell our boys, you have to be the aggressor, go out and seize the moment, because being timid loses. The minute there's any timidness, I don't know if that's a word, but today it's a word. But any moments you're experiencing an ounce of timid, you don't go get it. You know what I mean? And so it's as a coach, it's easy to sit back here and say like, no, 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 no. Look at every moment as an opportunity to go grasp the moment, to go out and make a name for yourself. And just not let that negativity creep in. But when you're 15, 16, 17, and even you get to some of the college age, it's hard. I know, like I often say, anytime we're going into a big game, are they allowed to punch you? Are they allowed to put you in a headlock? Are they allowed to eat you? Like, no, they're the same age as you are. They come from the same school. They're on where there's an equal playing field. It comes down to how well we execute the things that we want to do.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was interesting. You somewhat alluded to that. And you kind of touched on the internal pressure, our self-expectations. Kind of, and we can expand on this just a little bit more, but I know, kind of we had the Lanesville, shout out to Lanesville, but we had won our first sectional game and we are getting ready to play the sectional favorite. And you could just tell there was some nerves. We weren't as loose. We were playing against the team that we had lost to earlier in the season. And, it's like, hey, so I coming into the game, as a coach, recognize that. And it's kind of like, all right, let's make light of this. Because at the end of the day, it's another game. And there's going to be a winner and a loser. And we've prepared to win. But if we lose, did we do everything we could to win? And so it's, just kind of that just refocusing on that point of, we've prepared, we've done what we could, we've prepped. Now it's time to go play the game, and whatever happens, what's the line? May the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
So
and that's the thing. Like, so what if we lose?
right.
At the end of the day, and you mentioned it at the start of the show. That's why we're doing the show. Like, yeah, we may lose some. Like, believe me, I want to win, and I've always wanted to win. I'm competitive, and I hate losing. But at the end of the day, like, so what if we do?
Right.
When it comes to sports, and that goes back to what we talked about in the last episode, which is, your identity. Where does it come from? Do you believe that, you were created, on purpose for a purpose? And so when you have that higher calling in your life, then does losing a basketball game, does losing a football game, does that really matter? Does that take away from your worth and your value as a person? No, it
Yeah.
doesn't. And so, again, that's your perception. How are you perceiving that? If I lose, and because I lose, I'm less of a person. That pressure gets real intense real
Yeah.
fast.
And I want to add to that just a moment, like just because and I hope our audience picks up on this, not that it's some great epiphany, but kind of goes, it's a journey and it's a struggle for everyone, not just for our youth. I know we got off to a rocky start, and there were times where I felt pressure of like, you know, what hold on, like I haven't experienced this type of suffering in 6 years plus. You know what I mean? Like what's going on with me? Like am I loser? You know what I mean? And am I the right guy for this? Am I the right position? Am I at the right place? I felt like it was the right thing to do, but is it,
Right.
And so just coming in and just again it's positive self-talk, positivity. And then we had our banquet the other day. I made a comment to our guys, the people you surround you with carries more weight than anything. We had a great group of guys who would come in and just continue to put their trust in me, and ultimately they helped. And I think one way, if we're talking to a kid who's feeling some pressure, is just your team, just show that you trust in them, and you believe in them. And another thing I always say, and I truly mean it, is any group that I'm coaching, I'm here for a reason, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, and so that's it's 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 not easy, especially when you get to the internal. We next point is going to be external, social, and digital. Those are all easy to kind of turn off and stop listening to, but those 6 inches between the ears, man, it can really talk you into some tough situations. And with that, let's transition to external. So parents and coaches.
Yeah.
Um, I why don't you start, coach?
Well, yeah, thanks for throwing that on me. I'll say this, that one of the things that I've tried to get, especially my older athletes, the high school athletes that I've worked with, is I try to um, empower them to take their athletic career into their own hands, for them to take responsibility for it. Young athletes, when you're second, third, fourth grade, you're kind of, you're listening to mom and dad. Um, your coaches, you're pretty much just doing what other people tell you, right? Because you don't know yet. But as you get older, there's still a lot of things you don't know, and you need coaches and you need parents to help you, and you need those along the way. But at some point, you have to, like any of us growing up and becoming our own people, you have to determine at some point, like, I'm doing this because I want to do it.
Right.
Like I challenge the high school athletes, and I have honest conversations with them. Like, if you're playing a sport and you're absolutely miserable, like, why are you playing it?
Hmm.
And a lot of times, like, well, I know my mom will, or here, honestly, this is what it is. The majority of the time, I know I'll really let my dad down.
Yeah.
I don't really ever hear too much about letting mom down, but
Right.
I'll let my dad down if I don't continue to play. And it's like, okay, but you're 16, 17, 18 years old. You're starting to become your own person. Like, you want to honor your parents. You want to respect your parents. You want to listen to your parents and take the wisdom that they have and apply it to your life. But you're in that kind of transition phase of your life where it's like, okay, I have to determine for me what my life path is going to be.
Right.
So I try to help kids um, not in any way diminish the importance of their parents in their lives and diminish the importance of coaches in their lives, but to also understand and listen, but then to be able to take and own it themselves.
Yeah.
So 3 stages of ownership: know it, do it, own it. Okay.
Mhm.
When you're little, you're just trying to know it. You're just trying to learn it. As you're getting a little bit older and you're getting some skills to you, you're just trying to do it. But at some point you have to own it. You have to make it your own thing. And a lot of the kids that I work with, they just really beat themselves up over the fact that, they don't, especially the ones that don't love their sport, but they still do it. You could tell that it's the parent that owns it and it's not the kid that owns it. So I even talk to parents sometimes about like, hey, take a step back. And it's hard to do. I've actually, as we're recording this here in about 4 hours, my 4-year-old has his first ever T-ball game. So we are starting. I am starting my journey with my boys tonight as far as a sports parent. I've done it with my daughter with cheer, but with my boys as a sports parent. And so it'll be interesting along the way. But one thing that I'm wanting to do is like just step back. I want to give my son what he needs to be successful, but I want his athletic career, if that's what he wants to do, if he wants to do something else, whatever it is, I want it to be his. I don't want it to be mine.
Right.
And so that's, for young athletes, taking that ownership in their athletic career is huge. And I tell them a lot of times, like, look, if you take ownership in it, if you're serious about it, you want to work at it. Like if you're getting up in the morning before school to get extra practice in, if you're staying late after practice, like, do you think your parents are going to be jumping your case left and right as much? Or do you think they'll tend to want to trust you? Like they'll trust you more to where they feel like, okay, I can take a step back because they're taking a step forward.
Right.
And usually that happens. And I challenge the parents listening to this is encourage your athletes to take that ownership so they can take the step forward and you as a parent can take the step back. Easier said than done. But that's a great place to start.
Oh yeah. I've always said it a few times, but that when I do have kids, I want them to play a sport that I'm kind of, if it is basketball, then it's whatever. It is what it is. But, I'd love to see them play a sport that I don't know much about the strategy behind it, or I don't know what it takes and I could just sit back and enjoy the product on the field.
Yeah.
Oftentimes as coaches, we sit here and whenever we hear or see that a parent wants to have a meeting, it sends chills up our back, or, anytime a parent confronts us and it's like, oh no, but, and it's easy to sit back from this seat and also say like, that'll never be me. Or you see some parents change when they have a kid who's competing at a high level, and it's, again, that thought of that would never be me, or this crazy parent and this and that. And it's like, you don't really know until you're in the situation. And two, just you never really know until you're in the situation.
Gets more emotional.
Like that. Yeah, I do like that challenge you mentioned in terms of just encouraging your parents encouraging both parties to take that step forward and take that step back in unison. I think that would be a challenge that, to someone listening, like if you feel yourself being like getting kicked out of games, you might want to take that. No, I'm just kidding. But moving on to social, before we get into this, so teammates, comparisons, oh, I see Jimmy scoring 20 points. That could be me. Just kind of that internal competition between teammates. What do you have to say to that?
I heard this the other day from a guy that I follow that I did my mental certification through, Brian Kane, and he said it this way, and I loved it. Are you comparing or are you competing?
Mm-hmm.
Are you comparing yourself to others all the time, or are you competing with yourself?
Yeah.
The only thing that matters is, are you better today than you were yesterday?
Yep.
And everybody has their, God has blessed everyone with their own skill set, with their own talents, with their own abilities. We all have our own shortcomings and our own failures too.
Mm-hmm.
And to compare that with others constantly is exhausting. It's draining, but it is not who we were created to be. Each and every single one of us were created as individuals with a specific set and makeup that makes us special and unique to who we are.
Yeah.
The goal is to compete with where we are today and understand that there's a process to get better every step of the way, every day that we're on this journey. And am I better today than I was yesterday?
Yeah.
And when we do that, then it takes the comparison game out of it.
Yeah.
It's just, man, I see it a lot. It's getting to be more that way with social media, but we say that social media has just magnified it. But for all of history, people have been comparing themselves to others. They have more than me. I'm better than them.
Yep.
I'm better looking than they are. Why can't I be as good looking as them? We've been doing that for all of human history. And it's like, it's so easy to fall in that trap. But at the end of the day, it's about competing against ourselves one day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. Something I was thinking about while you were saying that, kind of goes back to just that constant comparison, keeping up with the Joneses. You know what I mean? Um, it's I remember being in college we were at church. I was home for the weekend, and one sermon that changed my life centered around gratitude and just constantly being grateful for what you have. And it brought me to tears because it's like, oh wow, there's so much to be grateful for, you know. And that's just like we are as the body of Christ. There's some who are gifted with metaphorically the legs of Christ. Others have the arms of Christ. Others have the heart. It's a similar thing when you're putting a unit together. Not everybody can be the quarterback. Not everybody can be the running back or the wide receiver. It takes those guys who are the working between the trenches, to put together a successful unit. Um, Real quick, there's this funny video that I crack up every time I see of this. This kid, he is like, I don't know, he's probably like 9 or 10 years old, and they're praying over, or they're going through after Thanksgiving and saying something that they're grateful for. And this kid is literally bawling, saying, like, I am just so thankful because I have so many good things around. And the camera just pans around the family, and they're dying laughing because this kid is just,
Awesome.
it's hilarious. I'll send it to you when you get off air.
I want that. Yeah, that's great.
But it's hilarious. Jumping ships here to the social media, and this is kind of where I want to start off here with this. I saw a commercial this year during March Madness that was really about pressure and just kind of being a good fan and not going into the comment section on social media and giving them death threats, or not running to X, the everything app, and just kind of tweeting and doing the same thing. And so um how do you bring in the that conversation to a high school or a college athlete? And it's only getting worse because of online gambling and everything else. But what's that conversation look like?
Mm. Yeah, that's a tough one because you could sit there and say, block out the noise, don't pay any attention to it. And I mean, that's hard. I mean, that I don't know if that's realistic. I know when I was coaching, like as a young coach, I had some parents go online and say some things about me.
Mhm.
And my biggest worry was that not so much that it was about me, but it was like, how is that going to affect my players?
Right.
As a
Right.
coach, like, are the other players going to see that? Who's going to buy into it? And now, do I have the influence, or are the players going to be listening to somebody else?
Right.
Uh, then I had to remind myself that probably what's being said on social media has already been said privately, uh, plenty of times before.
Yeah.
And I still, and I, at that point, where the school that I was at, I had a great relationship with those kids. And so it's like, okay, like one person saying one thing's not going to destroy that relationship. Like the personal bonds have to be tighter
Mhm.
uh, than just some random comment on social media.
Right.
Uh, so that's one. Um, the other thing I would tell kids too is like you really have to monitor it. Like you can't get rid of it totally. And matter of fact, a lot of the kids that I talk to, they don't want social media. Like this generation, this younger generation, they have made comments to me like, I see that social media has like so many bad things, and I would rather not have it, but I have to, or else
Yeah.
like I won't have any friends.
Yeah.
And so I would just say like you have to be careful of it, because I've caught myself as a 37-year-old adult getting sucked in, going down the rabbit hole of social media. And then after like, an hour of endless scrolling and just wasting time being like, man, why does like my soul feel bad? Like why do I feel this negativity right now? And I'm like, well, I'm just scrolling through and there's things popping up that like, I'm, whether it's world events and, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I've kind of had to catch myself to be like, okay, social media is a tool that I can use for good. And I need to make sure that I don't get it caught in the trap of letting it use me. I need to use it.
Right.
And so I try to use social media, for me to promote what I'm doing with FCA, to promote, mindset training, things like that. For young kids, what I've challenged them to do, if they're trying to get into college, use social media as just basically your page to showcase why you would be a valuable asset to a college coach.
Right.
Don't use it for anything else. Just use it for that.
Yeah.
If you get on there for anything else other than that, then it's a waste of your time.
Oh,
and so utilize the tool. Don't let the tool use you.
Yeah. And oftentimes you see, from the Heisman Trophy winner, Fernando Mendoza, he only had a LinkedIn page. You know what I mean? Which is very representative of him and his personality. But, you'll see a lot of coaches kind of implement a no social media policy. I've seen some interviews that keep up with Oklahoma football, and we had a Johnny Manziel like on the field, not off the field, player, and our quarterback who transferred from Washington State came over with some highly touted hype behind him. And, he would, I think one of the interviews were like, a lot of critics are saying this, are you seeing this? How do you keep, ready to go? And he's like, I don't see it. I don't get on it. I don't check it, and that might change in the off season when they have, you know, time to be a kid, but during the season, it's all kind of go mode. And I'll tell you this, there's been some times where, like I said, it's no secret. You can check what our record was. You can look at our schedule and I mentioned some of that pressure I faced earlier. I go looking to see what people were saying, just because as a young coach, when you're still trying to learn to trust people, looking over your shoulder and seeing who you can trust and who you can't. And, I was fortunate enough that we've got a great group of guys, as I said already, who are loyal to me and they keep me isolated from some of that chatter that they hear in the halls or down at the local diner. So it's to that I would kind of add on just again, just when you have a unit, and you kind of said something about this as well, like how is my team going to react to this? When you are doing things the right way, and you have a grasp of just the minds of your players, not in a manipulative way, but they follow your vibe, your I guess your vibe, you know what I mean? And so could go on a little bit about how that kind of helped us turn our season around, but when they show up with smiles on their faces and they're not giving you attitudes during some of the darkest times of the season, that lets you know you've got a good group. And then you've got your assistant coaches kind of echoing that same message that we are a family, we are a close-knit group, we are one unit moving forward, and we're not focused on this. That's huge. And it really does help kind of eliminate, and we could say this for all really of these pressure inducing environments, when you surround yourself with the right people, and everyone has a common goal, it kind of helps keep some of that pressure at bay.
Well, the question you have to ask yourself at the end of the day when it comes to social media is when you are posting stuff, who are you seeking the approval of?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're seeking, for me, when I'm at my best, I'm seeking the approval of God.
Right.
I want to please him with what I'm putting on social media.
Right.
When I'm at my worst, I'm seeking the approval of other people.
Right.
And, I'm blessed. I have a lot of people in my life and my family that they just love me because I'm family,
Right.
but there's a lot of people out there, like the majority of people, I'm never going to be able to please,
Right. Right.
or if I am, it's not, it's, I might please some people, but not other people.
Right.
And so you have to ask yourself, like, who, when it comes to social media or even external pressures, who are you giving the power to
Mm-hmm.
put that pressure on you?
Right.
Are you letting God put that pressure on you? Or are you letting other people put that pressure on you? And then when we understand, this goes on a whole nother topic, but when we understand how much, God loves us, that's not, that pressure is not ever, overbearing,
Right.
because we
Right.
understand that he's got our back, but it can become overbearing when we put all that focus on and give that power to other people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's huge. That's huge. Um, and you kind of you touched on a point there that we'll jump into in just a moment, but story time, you know. Has there ever been a moment where you, as a player or coach, is cracked under pressure?
Uh, yeah. which one, which one should I pick? Yeah, we've all been there. We've all done that. I would say one of the things that I did, and it wasn't even a moment, but it was an entire season.
Mhm.
I played golf at Vincennes University, and my freshman year, so Vincennes, junior college, 2 years is your career length there. My freshman year, we finished third in the nation. We kind of surprised the first time in a long time that Vincennes has been back to the national tournament. We were kind of just hoping to, finish decent, but we finished third. And then we came back the next year with a solid team. And going into that year, my whole thought process was like, I could be a national champion. Like we as a team could win a national championship.
Mhm.
And I wanted it so bad that I wanted it too bad.
Right.
There was just, I remember the season started and the commitment was there. Like the season started. I remember it was like, no, this was before the season. It was February. It was snowing outside, 25 degrees. And I was at the driving range working on my game.
Yeah.
And I would stay up with my buddy. We'd go to the golf course that didn't have any lights on it, and we would put our car on the driving range so we could see, and we would just hit balls in the middle of the night at the driving range to practice. And we'd get into tournaments, and I just had this mindset going into these tournaments that, like, I have to play my best. And if I don't play my best, we're not going to win nationals. And like every shot is so important and every match is so important. And then we get to nationals and it's like, this is it. Like, this is what I've been working for. And it's just like, I was so tense. I was fighting it so bad. And we went and finished seventh the
Yeah.
next year. Like
Yeah.
we underperformed. I underperformed. I had one of my best friends. He played great, finished, he was an All-American with how he finished. And, man, I put so much pressure on myself to achieve that goal that I was never able to relax and just enjoy the process and actually perform when I needed to perform because I wanted it so bad that I wanted it too bad.
Right. No, that's I have a plenty of opportunities, plenty of stories I can pick from as well. I was sophomore high school, or no, I was a junior in high school. No, golly, senior in high school. And it was early in the season. We had dropped our first game to some team, and we're playing a local school here. And I had cramped up in this game before, and so I'm at the free throw line with a 1-and-1. And now kids these days who are getting into high school basketball, everything is a double bonus after 5 fouls, so they don't know the pressure of only getting one free throw.
Yeah.
But we were down we really needed these free throws pretty much is what I'm getting to. And so um like I said, I remember cramping in the first game, so I thought, man, I'm gonna put a little bit extra on this because my legs are shot, and I hit the back rim, and we went on to lose the game. And so it's one of those things, and I think you alluded to it as well, but when we put ourselves under such extreme pressure, we become tense.
Mhm.
And when you're tense, some of the, in some of the biggest games of the season, you kind of want this loose feel. You want your players to feel loose because again, going back to the timidness and whatnot. But the point I want to make is the number of times where you as a player or an athlete or as a coach, you're so uptight, you're so tense, and you're playing or coaching not to make a mistake or to not lose, and you end up losing because you didn't just go get it.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. And also just being an athlete, if you ever find yourself in that situation where it's high pressure, that's the best time to just rely on instincts and your rep at what you've repped and your fundamentals. Because how many times have you thought about, being on the golf course maybe, or for me being on the basketball court where it's like, all right, I'm going to make this move, this particular move if I see this, and you come up and you butcher the move or something, or you butcher the shot, and it's a turnover rather than like just being free flowing, and then you make a move like you're just playing off instincts and reaction. It's
Well,
it's
let me say this too, because you mentioned that your scenario, and this goes for anything in life. This isn't just in sports, but you mentioned that pressure situation, and we
Mhm.
want to stay calm in that situation. But the only way that we truly ever get to be calm in that situation is by putting ourselves in those pressure situations, right?
Right,
And
right.
and so, you being in that situation, and even though you didn't achieve the goal, and
Mhm.
like we talked about, you could look at that and go, well, that was a failure. But was it a failure, or did you learn from it? Maybe you learned, hey, next time at the end of the game, even though my legs are tight, I understand it's more adrenaline. And
Right,
so I could
right,
just stick to my process, or
right.
whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that a lot of young athletes, and a lot of just even young people that I've worked with and I've talked to, they try so hard to avoid the pressure situations
Hmm.
because they're just like, I don't want to be there. It's painful. It's scary. It hurts. What if I do fail? And they avoid it. But if you avoid it, you never grow. And
Yeah.
I listen, there's been plenty of times in my life where there's been things as a coach where there's been times that I needed to step into a pressure situation where I
Hmm.
avoided it. And because of that, I haven't grown. And it's like,
Right.
but that's where you get comfortable with it. So it's where you could you have the preparation of being in those moments over and over and over again, and you match that with the process that you've put in place, your practice. So your free throw, you get in those situations, you get comfortable, in those pressure situations, but then you match the process. So the free throw routine that you have worked on a
Yep.
thousand times,
Yeah.
and you mirror those two things together, and then that's where you start to see more and more success. I'm working with a golfer right now that he's never broken 80 in a tournament, and he's been close. He's had two tournaments that he's had a chance to break 80, and he's like coming down to the last few holes. He just has to get a couple pars coming in, and he does it. And the last two tournaments, he's had some big holes down the stretch, and he just barely misses it. He shoots like 82 or 83. He's
Yeah.
trying to get down in the 70s. And I told him afterwards, I said, hey, don't get discouraged. Like, this is a good thing. And he's like, what do you mean it's a good thing? I'm like, you need to look at this as you have put yourself in position every time that you've gone out to play to break 80.
Yeah.
And the more that you put yourself in that position, the more comfortable you're going to get with it, and the easier that it will become over time. So then once you finally do it, you're like, okay, I'm here. I'm
Right.
used to this. This is easy. And so I challenge everybody listening to this, coaches, players, parents, if it's just life in general, you have to put yourself in those positions that it might be a little difficult
Yeah.
at times. It might be a struggle at times, but if you could fight through those struggles, it makes the pressure a little bit it makes it easier and easier as you grow throughout those.
Right. No, you've touched on some great points, and it brings me to the quote, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Of course, that's LeBron's favorite quote, if you didn't know that. You've seen that video, but I remember just thinking about, like, do I want to take the step from an assistant coach, a JV head coach, to the head coaching job? And I was like, I feel like it's time for me to step into that and grow and acquire a new set of skills. And it was one of the best decisions in my life, and it's hasn't all been, like we said, hasn't all been smooth, just being from that leadership position, refining new leadership skills and how to communicate to people and how to ask for help from your those who are supporting. But you figure it out along the way, and it truly is. It alleviates it allows you to face, like, the music per se, and just carry yourself with a little bit more confidence, and two, just when you are in those situations, those tight games, it's like, yeah, we've got this because we've done it before. You know what I mean? And it alleviates all that negative self-doubt of, should I even be here, to, all right, let's go. Like, let's go. You know what I mean?
Can
Um,
can I speak to our kids listening to this real
oh,
quick?
please.
So just interesting things, some stats, and I don't know the numbers exactly, but the trends, I guess I should say, in our world. I'm seeing more and more that when kids turn 16, they're not getting their license.
Mhm.
They're waiting until they're older to get their license.
Yep.
One of the reasons is they don't want the responsibility of it.
Mhm.
That's pressure. You're
Yep.
avoiding the pressure. Own it. Get your license. For the parents, stop driving them everywhere. Let them get their license. Let them own it.
Yeah.
It's time to step into that responsibility. Here's some crazy stuff. I did this with doing some business research a while back. It is becoming more and more typical for kids. I say kids, for college graduates. This number is on the rise for college graduates to show up to a job interview with a parent. I myself with Andrew Grant's Mindset Solutions, have had a college graduate's mom reach out to me about her daughter possibly getting a job with me. The daughter that's 22 years old, that is a college graduate, did not reach out to me. The mom did. Are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
This is what we went back to earlier about the own it part. Like, parents have to step back and allow their children to own it, because there's pressure that comes with it.
Yep.
And so what? Step into the pressure, handle the pressure, understand it's going to be difficult, but grow through it. Listen, I found this out too. As a parent, I've got 3. People, when I was younger, would always, well, I don't know if I'm ready for kids. So, I want to wait. You're never going to be ready for kids. Like, I've got 3. You're never going to be ready.
Yeah.
But what I found in having children is that when you do, and let me preface this with when you do in the context of marriage, that, because I don't want people to hear this and be like, well, I'm just going to go start having kids. I'm not saying
right,
that.
Right.
I'm saying be responsible about it. But when you do, you're not ready for it, but you figure it out along the way because your parent instincts kick in, the love kick, it just goes to another level you've never known before. And you figure out a way, and it's hard and it's difficult. But then when you go through that and you grow, man, it's so rewarding. And so just all of these trends that I'm seeing in our world today, where it's just like parents are afraid to give up that control. They don't want to see their kids suffer, which is a good thing, but it could become too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
And then the kids just don't want to step into just taking the responsibility. But man, for the kids listening, like, when you want to find some meaning and purpose and drive for your life, it comes with responsibility. And that responsibility is a good thing. It's a growth thing. It's a purpose-driven thing that fires you up to wake up every morning and go make positive changes in the world and go make good things happen. And so stop sitting around, stop being afraid of the pressure,
Yeah.
step into it. Parents, step back and let the kids own it.
Oh yeah. Well, and that brings us right into our next segment, the pros of pressure. Pressure reveals what you believe about yourself. And you kind of touched on that when we first started, kind of the perception of what pressure is. Um, pressure is not always bad, as we hope that in the last few minutes, our listeners have gotten to hear that. Pressure is not always bad. One interesting quote here: pressure without identity equals anxiety. And I thought that was pretty, again, kind of something that you had mentioned before. And then pressure without tools equals burnout. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So if you don't feel equipped, um, it allows that burnout to creep in, and then pressure without support equals isolation.
Yeah.
So it pressure, what do they say? Pressure makes diamonds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, to those listening, just kind of speaking to what we just said, own the pressure, attack the pressure. And when you do, you have a confidence behind you, or you have a newfound level of just self-respect and just again confidence to tackle really just about any opposition or obstacle. And it's never going to be, we're not saying, as soon as you go attack a high pressure situation that you're always going to succeed. But every loss is it's only a loss if you don't learn something from it.
Yeah.
And you know, again, just attacking and
If you're,
not being afraid of the pressure.
yeah, if you're going to fail fast. We had a player that I was coaching years ago in basketball, and he kind of just hung back. He didn't get out of his comfort zone too much. And I told him, I was like, man, you could drive the basketball. You can get into the paint and you could finish it. But he just never would. It was like either he would catch it, and if he was wide open, he'd shoot it. But if not, he'd pass it. And usually it was a pass because he
Mhm.
didn't want to make. And I'm like, you have to add to your game. I know you have more to your game, but he just wouldn't do it.
Mhm.
So finally, I told him, I said, look, just drive the basketball. If you get in the paint, shoot the freaking thing. I'm not going to say a word to you. I don't care where it
Yeah.
goes, what happens. I just want you to start doing it. I'm not kidding you. We're at Providence. He drives into the paint. He shoots it from 5 feet and shoots it over the crossbar above the backboard. This thing went 20 feet in the air
Yeah.
over the out of bounds, like
Mhm.
bad. And I was like clapping. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. And people are like, is this coach lost his mind? you know? But that's what I wanted, because that was the first step of him getting out of his comfort zone, stepping into the pressure. And if he didn't do that and he didn't go fail at that, then 5 games later, when he was comfortable getting into the paint and laying it in, he would have never have gotten there.
Right.
And so, there is so much good that comes with the pressure. But like you said, a couple of the quotes there, you mentioned number one, that you mentioned the tools with burnout. You mentioned, sorry, give me those quotes again, because I want
Yeah.
to touch on.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Pressure's not always bad.
Okay.
Pressure without identity equals anxiety.
Okay.
Pressure without tools equals burnout. And pressure without support equals isolation.
Identity, burnout, and isolation, or we'll say a group of, or support is what we should say. Identity, burnout, support. Let's focus on those 3 things real quick.
Mhm.
Um, what would move you? What would motivate you to find identity, to find support, and to find the second one, tools? What would motivate you to do that? Well, if I'm struggling, if I'm in pain, if it hurts, if I don't like the results that I'm getting and I'm fed up with it and I want to change it,
Mhm.
it's a heck of a motivator.
Oh yeah.
But the only way that I'm going to be motivated to do that is to step into those things. And so
Mhm.
that's, again, going back to that own it part, where the athlete or the kid has to step in and own it, and where the parent needs to let them struggle a little bit, is let them feel a little bit of that pain. You're still there as mom and dad. You could love them, you could support them,
Mhm.
you're still there, but let them feel a little bit of that struggle. And through the struggle, then now you encourage them. Hey, you're having a hard time. Here's some tools so you don't get burnt out. Hey,
Right.
you're having a hard time. Let me tell you what your identity is in Jesus Christ. so that you can get through that. Hey, here, you're having a hard time. Let me get a community. Let me get some supportive people around you so that you don't feel isolated.
Oh, yeah.
And so now as a parent, you're not going in, or as a leader, you're not going in and taking the pressure away from them. You're encouraging them to step into the pressure, but you go provide them with the tools to get better, to be able to handle it. Like that's the shift that I think we have to get back to, that we've kind of gone a little too far the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I mean, there's what's funny is that there are so many external factors that are touching on all of these, you know what I mean, in terms of, you know, what is your identity? You're soft if you get support, or you're weak if you get support. You're weak if you don't know, you know, where to go for help. We see it all the time in the work that we do. Just people don't know. They don't know what they don't know, and they don't know that there are people who can help you. If your rent is late, there's people who can help you if your utility bills, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help. That's what they're there for, you know. Again, but when you begin to feel that pressure, and you don't know where to go, you don't know who to ask for help, or you don't do it, that's where that pressure just builds up, and it turns bad, But again, just going back to just the overall theme of this segment, pressure, it just reveals what you believe about yourself, and it reveals who you are. You know what I mean? I would take it a step further, is it reveals who you are. Are you going to be someone who, again, we all want to perceive ourselves as successes, and I don't think anyone woke up today thinking, man, how am I going to be a failure today? You know what I mean? But if you never put yourself in that situation to overcome, and I mean, again, it's preparation as well. You you can't sit here and dream about hitting a fadeaway three from the back corner, or the corner of the corner, if you don't practice that shot. You listen to some of these NBA players who say, you know, I wasn't. How'd you hit that shot? Well, I practice it 100 times, 1,000 times, over and over again. I shoot these shots and practice when nobody's in the gym, the same way I shoot them. Kobe was notorious for that. I shoot him, like I said, when nobody's in the gym, and the same way I do when people are in the gym. Um, and then again, just building your tools, your repertoire, the support's there, your coaches, your parents. That's rather than being pressure. I wanted to say, rather than being pressure cookers, you're a pressure reliever, right? That's kind of our job in the roles that we're in. And it takes a village. It's to assume that you're going to be able to step into a situation, and automatically succeed is foolish. You have to, again, have know who you are, have that support, and then be willing to continue to work on the tools that you think you have to get better. Um, you know, Moving into some mindset tools, handling pressure. Let's talk about managing what you can control versus what you can't control in relation to pressure.
One of the best things that I think anybody listening to, again, this is a Brian Cain thing, that you can do any aspect of life. Take and draw a line down the middle of the paper. On one side, put controllables. On the other side, put uncontrollables, and write down, what am I in control of? What can I not control? And then look at the two and go, which one am I focusing the most on? I have yet to come across an athlete that says they focus more on what they can control. They'll write it down and they'll be like, oh, man, I spend way more time focusing on the things that I can't control.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we get into let's just use a game situation. If we get into a game situation, what are the things that you can't control? You can control your attitude. You could control your preparation. So how well did you practice that week going into it? You can control your positive self-talk. What are the messages that I'm saying that I believe about myself?
Mm-hmm.
You can control your emotions. You can control your body language. Those are all the things you can control. What we often spend time focusing on are the things like referees, parents, the crowd, the ball's too aired up, the ball's too flat, the rims are too tight, the floor is too slippery.
Yep.
Well, guess what? It's the exact same for the other team when it comes to those.
Mhm.
Maybe it's the coach. You can't control whether the coach puts you in the game or takes you out of the game. You can influence you. You can play better, give yourself a better chance. But we focus on all those things, thinking that those are going to be the difference in whether we win or lose. But when you look at it, the difference in whether you lose is if you have a good attitude, if you have good body language, if you stay in control of your emotions, if you practice really well to execute the plays that you want to run, like that's going to be the biggest marker and determinant of whether you are successful or not. And
Right.
so that's just the context of sport. We could do that in life too. I got a job interview coming up. What do we tend to focus on? Well, this person, I don't know if they're going to, if their opinion of me, right? Well, I'm going to get in front of this job interview board in front of 5 people. And, I'm really worried about what they think of me. You can't control what they think of you, but you can control the practice that you put in to get those questions to have good answers. You can control the other people, your preparation as far as meeting with other people that, are business leaders, to get feedback from them to better your interview. You can control waking up early, being on time, presenting yourself dressed well, ready to step into that interview. If you do those things, it's going to help your chances to get that job. And so, that's, and it takes so much pressure off of you too, because that, at the end of the day, I can only control what I can control. Yeah. And everything else is just, it will take care of itself. And so that should give us a little bit of a peace of mind into any situation that we step into, knowing that, hey, whether it's a success or a failure, I did what I can do.
Yeah. What are your, so in terms, again, equipping ourselves to handle these pressure situations, pre-performance routine or routine or something you're going into a big moment, a high pressure situation, whether it's a game, you kind of touched on the job interview, but talking to we talk to our youth here, I'm trying to think of some things that are high pressure, asking the girl on a date, the prom, what are some tips and tools that you have seen work? I know we've had conversations off air about just things you've done before games and stuff with your athletes. But let's talk through some of those tools just to.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it. The routines are super important because the routine gives you an anchor. It gives you something to lock into. I mean, there's been studies done about this with kids, especially in test grades and how they do, the ones that have routines at home versus the ones that it's just different every single day. And the ones that have like a consistent wake up time, a consistent bedtime, a consistent morning routine, a consistent nighttime routine, they tend to do better on tests. And why is that? Well, you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you get ready for the day. You may have been doing it the same way for the last 10 years. If something crazy comes up in your life in the morning, let's say something happens tomorrow morning, you could still execute your routine without even thinking about it. So you still have the things that you need to start your day right are so ingrained and in place throughout that routine that if something comes that's out of the blue, you still have that routine to go back to. And so I use that for our athletes whenever they get into games. Like the pregame routine should be the same every single time. Whenever I was coaching, I wore a suit every single time that I coached. And people were like, "Why?" Like, some coaches, "Oh, you think you're big time." No, that's not why I did it. The reason I did it is because, and I said, if I'm ever fortunate enough to make it to a state championship game, what would I wear? What does every coach in Indiana wear in the state championship game? They wear a suit. Why would I coach all season long in a polo, then get to the state championship game and freak my players out and go, well, this one's way more important. This is different than any other game. This is not just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball. Right. Or the coaches that like some games, like the big rivalry game, they wear a suit. And then the game against the no-name team that they think they're going to beat by 30, they wear a polo. What message are you sending to the people that you're leading? Well, this one's more important. This one's less important. This one we should work harder. This one we shouldn't. Well, now you're comparing yourself. You're not competing with who you were yesterday. Right. And so, so that is one, to be able to handle the pressure. The more that you can make things repeatable and routine, the easier it is to step into those high pressure situations.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. You got me rethinking our coach's game day attire over here.
Well, I'll say this. I watched the Division II national championship game on TV the day this couple weekends ago. And one of the coaches on one of the teams, he was wearing like a button-up shirt and sweatpants. And I'm like, good for him, because like he didn't look, the most professional. The other guys got a nice suit on and stuff. But I'm watching it, I'm like, but if that's what he did all year long, then keep it. Who cares if it's the championship game? At the end of the day, you're still just trying to execute the game plan. It's the same thing in life. Like, you step in, if you want to ask, somebody out on a date or things like that, like, you find the process that works for you. and then you keep it. If it works, you keep it the same, and you step into that each day. And so it's the more you can repeat it. And I'll say this, sometimes with pressure and sometimes with routines. I did work with a wrestler one time, and we were just talking sports. And I was like, man, sometimes whenever you have the nervousness and things like that, it's just about doing it. Like, a lot of times we think like, man, I have to feel a certain way before I do something. Mm-hmm. The reality of it is that we need to do it before we feel a certain way. And so he comes back to me the next time we're working. He's like, hey, I took your advice. He's like, I just went up to this girl and I asked her out. He's like, I was nervous as can be. He said, but I just did it. He's like, if I would have waited, when I was in, kind of explain this a little bit. When I was in 5th grade, we went on a field trip to Marengo Cave, and we're doing zip lining. And they told us, they're like, when you get to the top and it's your time to go, just go. Don't think about it. Well, the dude in front of me, he doesn't go. The next thing you know, we are sitting there for 30 minutes as he is shaking. He's like, I'm going to go. No. I'm not. Okay. I'll go. No. And he couldn't do it because that split second hesitation at the beginning. Meanwhile, I'm standing up there the whole time. I have 30 minutes to freak myself out because this guy in front of me won't go. And so I was like, look, when it's my turn, like, I'm just closing my eyes and I'm stepping off. Like, I'm flying. And I did. And it was fun. It was a blast. But it's like, sometimes it's just that hesitation. It's like, just doesn't matter how you feel. Just step into it. And like you said, like we said earlier, we'll figure it out as we get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have definitely been that kid making everybody wait for 30 minutes. Not proud of it, man enough to say it. Refraining from mistakes. I'm sure you have had a kid or seen a kid who, like, the greatest practice player ever, but you put him in a pressure situation and it's a different kid. How do you what do you say? How do you give that kid some tools to we don't want to say refrain from making mistakes as a coach or a parent. Like, don't make any mistakes out there, because the last thing you go out with is. So what's your message there?
It's kind of like that football team earlier. The excitement and fear, the physiological studies that they've done, your response is the same. If you're fearful, your heart starts racing, your hands start sweating, you start getting amped up, adrenaline starts going. Same thing happens when you're excited. Yeah. The only difference is the meaning that you give to it. Mm-hmm. And so you have to redefine that meaning. Like if I get in this pressure situation, you can't be thinking like, what if I fail? Like, ask yourself, like, what if I succeed? Like, right. I heard this question a couple of years ago. I never thought about it. Like, because I was that way, like, as a coach. Like, I would go into every game and be like, what could go wrong? What haven't we worked on? Like, as a coach, you do that a lot.
Right.
And somebody challenged me one time, and they were like, yeah, what if you went into a game and you're like, man, what if everything went exactly right? And I was like, I never even, like, that thought never even crossed my mind. Very rarely does that happen. But, somewhere in between that balance of understanding, like, we could say positive thinking, we could say negative thinking, but really, honestly, sometimes the best place to be is neutral thinking. Like, just knowing, like, some things are going to go good, some things are going to go bad. Like that football team I shared earlier, like, we're playing this great team. I might lose, I might win, but it's still the same team. It's the same situation. let's just go into it and approach it with let's have our preparation meet our process,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be able to handle pressure.
Awesome. No, that's great. That's great. I personally had a lot of fun with this next segment. It'll be you know, when we get our chance, this will be sponsored by insert your company name here one day, but for
Right.
now, we'll just keep it at rapid fire questions. Um, what are three things, and I'm adding a number here, three or five or however many you want to go with, but we'll start with three. Three things athletes should remember under pressure or entering a high pressure situation.
Number one is that failure is just feedback. Number two, pressure is a privilege.
Mhm.
If you're in a pressure situation, that means that you're in a good situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That wins the pressure the most, the championship game. That's
Mhm.
good. That means you made it to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Those would be two. And then I would just go into it and just, what if everything went right? Like we often think like, man, what if everything goes wrong? It's going to be so terrible when we create this scenario. It's like, well, what if everything went right?
Yeah.
And we could choose to, again, pressure comes from our perception. So choosing the right perception.
Yeah. That's no, it's rapid fire, but I'm going to interject here. There was had the opportunity, very fortunate enough to be on the staff to play in the state championship game. And we were watching the first game, 2A goes second. And so we're watching the first game and we're like, all right, cool. So we go back to the locker room, we go through our positive self-talk, our positive scouting report, our positive talk, getting ready to take the floor. And sure enough, the first game goes into overtime. We're like, all right, cool, cool. Then we're sitting there again, getting ready. We're like, okay, it's almost over, it's almost over, it's almost over. Get ready. Goes into another overtime. And I can't recall exactly how many overtimes. It might have been two, just two. It could have been a third, but I remember, like it would have been very easy for us to be like, oh my gosh, and kind of create this like
Yeah.
franticness in amongst the locker room. But I remember one of our previous graduates who would come and help out when he could. He was just like, good, this is good, like
Yeah.
good. And so like we kept echoing that. They're like, oh, another overtime, good, good. Like let's get so
Well,
so.
no,
Yeah.
it's great. Well, the thing in competition that you have to think about is like in that situation, the other team is experiencing the same thing.
Right.
And a lot of times we tend to focus on, man, this is just affecting us.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
could look at that and go, no, 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 this is the other team's going through the same thing. Let them be the one that beat themselves. We'll just
Mhm.
relax and handle it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. One thing parents, coaches, teachers, teammates, adults say that create pressure.
Number one, I think, is just any kind of comparison again.
Yeah.
So and so, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
That's one. I think just focusing, on outcome a lot, over focusing on outcome. When we make everything about winning, a lot of times we tend to win less.
Yeah.
When we make everything about execution and process and controlling what you can control, then we tend to win more. And
Yeah.
so I'd say for the parents, like it's easy to get caught up in, you didn't lose. And I don't even know if it's something necessarily that you say, but I think it's the vibe that you put off.
Right. Right. Right.
That's what it is. I mean, if your kid gets done and they're disappointed, and then you're just kind of like, you don't, not that you're not talking to them out of respect, but you're not talking to them like out of anger.
Hmm.
Uh, you're kind of jumping their case. They could see just the anger, the frustration, the disappointment, things like that. I will say in the young athletes that I've worked with, the hundreds of athletes that are, under high school age,
Yeah.
that is a big one. That is a lot of times where a lot of fear comes from, is they are just so afraid of letting mom and dad down, or that dad, again, it's usually dad, that dad is just going to just lay into them, and they're just going to hear it, the whole ride home. And they get so fearful of that. And so I would say, number one, for a young athlete, what I try to tell them is, hey, you can't change your parents. You can't change how they're going to react to it. You're gonna have to just look at it and go, okay, they're going to say what they're going to say. Let me take what they're saying and what I can pull out of it that is helpful to me, and then let me forget about the rest of it. And then for the parents, I would say just literally put a plan in place of how you're going to act after games. Like one of the best things that I saw a parent do one time is just they put in they asked their kid, hey, do you want to talk about it? And then the kids, most of the time, the kid's like, no. And then after 5 minutes, they're talking about it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, when we talk about it, we're not breaking everything down. I used this last time we met, was the well, better, how. As a parent, ask the kid, hey, what are 3 things that you think you did well tonight? What's one thing that you think you could do better? And then how can I help you do that better? Now the kid is like, okay, I can express what I did good. Because a lot of times with the kids here, 50 things. Man, here's 50 things that I did wrong. How could I ever be better? I'll never be able to fix all 50 things. As a parent, sometimes the best thing we could do is just help the kids self-reflect and just be like, hey, what's one thing that you want to focus on? Yeah. And man, that takes so much pressure off of a young athlete to just, understand that, okay, one thing, I could work on that. That's not bad. And then as a parent to ask, how can I help you with that? Man, now you feel like you got the support of mom and dad, and you're not overwhelmed.
Yeah. No, that's awesome stuff. Kind of pours back into kind of that moment we were just saying, like the team and I mean, even in the classroom, as we're both aware of, or just anywhere, your vibe gives off a lot, and it's really, whether we realize it or not, your vibe creates anxiety, creates pressure, excuse me, and so on. What's one mindset shift for anxiety?
Yeah. So this is the part where I get preachy. Real quick, I want to look at a few examples in the Bible of anxiety inducing moments, but where someone came out on top despite the pressure. Number one, you look at David and Goliath. David's fighting Goliath. If David loses, number one, not only is he killed, but the agreement is that the Philistines get to go overtake all of Israel. Yeah. So not only is David fighting for his life, but he's also fighting on behalf of his entire country. That's a high pressure situation. That would cause a lot of anxiety for most people. Right. But David understood, he put his trust in God. We talk about Daniel, and Daniel doesn't bow down to the king, knowing he's going to the lion's den, but he put his trust in God. So going into a lion's den, he's like, God's going to deliver me from this. And even if he doesn't, that I know that I'm going to be with him after death. He's taking care of me. Right. The highest pressure situation in all of human history is Jesus at the Mount of Olives, whenever he's getting ready to go to the cross, suffer, one of the most brutal deaths that's ever been created, brutal execution styles ever been created. And it says that he was under so much pressure that he started to sweat blood because his body was having such a physical response to it. And he has the opportunity to say, no, I don't want to do this. Yeah. But he still does it because he loves all of humanity and he has put his trust in the Father. Yeah. And so I would say in the anxiety moments, the mindset shift that we need to have is what's on the other side. And for me personally, it's that focus on the faithfulness of God and trusting God, and that, knowing that I have eternity with him. For other athletes, what's on the other side? Maybe it's that championship, that you want to win. What's on, we said job interviews, going in a job interview, nervous as can be, but what's on the other side? Maybe it's the life that you always wanted. Maybe it's the opportunity to get to make, some more money, not for you, not for a selfish way, but you get to provide for your family and your kids, or save for a future, and focusing on that part of it versus focusing on the fear of it. Again, fear and anxiety, same physiological response, but it's what you place the meaning on. And so if we look at those three examples in the Bible, in each one of those, every single person knew God is bigger and I know what's on the other side, even if I fail. Yeah. And so it's the same principle that can be carried over to anything that we face in life.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Last but not certainly least, what is confidence?
Certainty.
Certainty.
At the end of the day, confidence is just certainty. It's just where do you place your certainty?
Yeah.
So is it, do you place your certainty in what other people think of you? Man, that's hard because people change their minds a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We could say self-confidence. All self-confidence is, like, let's say we use basketball as an example and the ability to shoot a jump shot. Well, when somebody says, man, they're just so confident in their jump shot. Well, why? It's because they've worked on it time and time and time and time again, so much that they are certain that they can execute what they've worked on.
Right.
And again, in life, just those three examples I gave in the Bible, those three individuals I said had a confidence, they had a certainty of the outcome that they were going to have because of who they had their certainty in. And so at the end of the day, confidence is just in certainty, but we have to make sure that we place our certainty in the right things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, first and foremost, let's thank those who tuned in to listen. Thank you, Andrew, for being here today, being a collaborator here. Kind of to sum things up, pressure is a part of sports. Pressure is a part of life. And there's always going to be that pressure, but pressure should never define you. If your identity is strong, pressure becomes fuel, not fear. And so with that being said, thanks again for joining us this afternoon. And until next time. Any parting words? Do you have any?
You're the best, man. That's it. Just
oh, get out of here. I paid him to say that. No, I appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Mindset Huddle Podcast. We hope this episode encouraged you. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who could benefit. We'll see you next time.